Well, the government has approved 8 national high-speed road corridor projects of a length of 936 kilometers, entailing an investment of somewhere close to 50,000 crore rupees to improve logistics and connectivity across the country. The implementation of these projects will generate an estimated 4.42 crore man-days of direct and indirect employment. The projects approved by the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs include a 6-lane Agra Gwalior National High-Speed Corridor, 4-lane Kharagpur-Moregram National High-Speed Corridor, 6-lane Tharad-Deesa-Mehsana-Ahmedabad Corridor, and a 4-lane Ayodhya Ring Road 4-lane section between Pathalgaon and Gumla of Raipur Ranchi National High-Speed Corridor, and a 6-lane Kanpur Ring Road as well. As per a government release, the centre has approved a corridor-based highway infrastructure development approach with focus on ensuring consistent standards, user convenience and logistics efficiency. As compared to the earlier project-based development approach focused on addressing stretches of local congestion, this is a big project that definitely is going to be helpful in decongestion as well. We'll talk about this, the investment, and of course the intent of the government by having these national highway projects. Joining us on the show to talk more about this is Dr. Sharad Kohli, senior economist. Also with us on the show is Abhijit Sinha, technocrat, program director, ease of doing business. Sumit Peer, senior political commentator, also joins us on the show. Last but not the least, Mr. Vivek Menon, highway construction expert, joins us on the program as well. Everyone, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. Mr. Menon, I'll begin with you since this is an area of your expertise. What does this mean for the network in India? What does this mean for businesses in India? What does this mean for ease of doing business in India? You know, one thing we know for sure that most of the developed countries that are around today, be it China, I've been there, be the United States, I've been there, or even Europe, the first thing that they in fact noticed and went about improving was the connectivity, because they realized that for any developed or developing nation, it is very, very important to have roads that connect businesses with the people with the ease that, you know, India perhaps is in the middle of right now. What kind of an initiative is this, and how would you rate this in the overall things, the overall scheme of things that this government has been doing, not to forget what Nitin Gadkari has been doing for the past 10 years?
Well, I think, this whole scheme of, a national highway system started back in the late 90s. And I think, that kind of came off of what most developing nations have done, including the United States, that built an interstate system in the 60s. So I think, national connectivity between all of the 4 major metros was completed to a great extent. And of course, now that entire program is being extended to the rest of the country. Roads, fortunately, provide the last mile connectivity. And while we have rail and we have sea and we have all of those others, getting to the hinterland always is what roads do. And I think, over these past 2.5 decades, we've started building roads, we've started improving this connectivity. Unfortunately, in the past, we have had only, 2-lane connectivity very often. We have not had these large interstate highways that crisscross the nation. And so the Bharatmala project, the Golden Quadrilateral, the North, South, East, West corridors have all been great for, for commerce as well as for, the traveling public. So I think, I see this huge investment in roads and in highways as a boost to our economy. And I think where we lack right now is, most of these highways that are being built intercity. City to city. But unfortunately, what happens with most of our national highways when they hit the cities is that you come to a grinding halt. And I think that's where we really need to start working on our urban infrastructure that can provide, through connectivity. In the United States, if you travel on an interstate highway, you can go very seamlessly through major cities. Unfortunately, that's not the case here in India, and even in Bangalore, National Highway 4 and 44, they just come and they hit the city and you come to a grinding halt. So I think one of the things while we are doing all of this, trying to obviously improve connectivity across the country, is that we need to start focusing on what is also important in terms of throughput and through connectivity. So I think, this whole initiative has obviously gained a lot of steam since the time Mr. Nitin Gadkari came came in. I think the intent of the government is to obviously, improve our highway system to where it can be compared to any in the world. And I think we're slowly getting there. There are bottlenecks everywhere. And I think one of the things that we really need to focus on when we build these highways is to future-proof them, especially from a drainage standpoint and from a longevity standpoint. Many of our highways today, even now, the Bangalore-Mysore corridor that was inaugurated not too long ago was flooding. So I think when we start looking at the investment that we are making into these corridors, we have got to ensure that these are future-proofed and built for the next 30 to 40 years. They're built with the best design standards. One thing that I don't see very often is interchanges being built. We are building a lot of grade separators, but we do not have interchanges. So I think these programs have to be looked at from a very holistic standpoint. I know that in this recent one there are ring roads that are being built, but ring roads necessarily do take traffic, the heavy traffic around the city. But then again, crisscrossing these cities, we need to start making sure that this connectivity is provided. So I think it's a great impetus to the country's economic growth, and I think this is a phenomenal program that they've put together.
Dr. Kohli, in fact, there was a report in the Economic Times that went about to say that India's road infrastructure, and this came out in 2023, is going to rival that of the United States by 2028. Well, of course, it is a possibility. The government is pumping in a lot of money, but just having roads, Dr. Kohli, is not going to suffice, right? There are other problems related to our roads and highways as well that need addressal as well. What do you make of this entire gambit of infrastructure development, which is so necessary for a country like India, which is aspiring to be, the third or the second largest economy in the next few years?
Good evening, Vineet. Good evening to my fellow panelists and NewsX viewers. Indeed, it provides a great boost to country's infrastructure. And if you ask me, one of the big takeaways in the last 10 years as far as infrastructure push has been concerned, I would put roads and highways, put them on the top. For me, that's been the top priority, because any characteristic you take of a developed country, I think roads and highways is the first thing you look at, undoubtedly. I mean, that's the very first impression. I mean, the benefits, the merits, we can just go on listing for rest of the show. I mean, it provides road connectivity, it reduces your logistic costs, it reduces the logistic time. The best part is that along the highways, you see townships coming, industrial parks coming up. Pick any expressway in the country where there's been so much of economic development. And I put it in a different way. I say each expressway or highway, builds an economy around it, whether it's schools, townships, industrial parks, free zones, sub-connectivities and so on. So addressing what Vivek said, he made a very valid point that we have a free flow of traffic from city to city. But once you enter the city or once you get closer to the city, you hit a roadblock. I call it as a roadblock because then you get into the usual city traffic. Well, the problem there is that when it's city to city, there is National Highway Authority of India, which is under the central government. But unfortunately, when you enter the state corporation, the state municipality, and the state civic infrastructure takes over. So we find sometimes lack of coordination between the central government and the state governments. I mean, we keep talking of cooperative federalism, but unfortunately, for many of the states which are not ruled by the political party in the center, they show their resentment. I have seen, it's very unfortunate and a matter of regret that I have seen many of the state governments who purposely and deliberately stall the expressway at that point to make sure that the expressway does not succeed. So the time people save on the expressway, on the highway, that gets burnt out when you enter the city and when you cross the city. So they try and negate, I'm sorry to say this, they try and negate the advantage being gained by the building of expressway by way of purposely blocking or not doing the development. I won't say purposely blocking, but not doing a corresponding development in the city connectivity. So that is a very unfortunate part. I think cooperative federalism is the need of the hour. But every single rupee Vineet spent on infrastructure has got an 8 to 10 times multiplier effect. And as part of 100 lakh crore, which is now it's of course $1.5 trillion, when I arrive at the numbers starting from 2014, $1.5 trillion of national infrastructure pipeline, I think has done wonders to this country. If today we have growth of 7 to 8%, different agencies give different numbers, so I'm giving a ballpark, 7 to 8%, a range, we take 7 to 8%. I would attribute a substantial part of this growth to the development of the road infrastructure. I think the Bharatmala project, the connectivity between the states, between the cities, the time people have saved, I think has contributed phenomenally to this growth. And I mean, we can work out numbers as to what part, but my own calculation as an economist says that about 20 to 25% of the growth that we have witnessed over the last decade is because of the build of the infrastructure. And another very important point which I would like to highlight, I've seen a lot of people grumbling about the toll tax that they pay. That this never used to be that much. Today you have a FASTag, and through the FASTag you end up paying hundreds of rupees every time you make a travel. But what they forget is that the vehicle you're using, the wear and tear of the vehicle, the time that you've saved, the fuel that you've saved, if you arrive at, because there is no way of calculating this accurately, but if there's somebody who can calculate this accurately, you will find that the toll tax the toll you're paying is far less than the wear and tear or the fuel cost or the time cost, which you would have spent if this expressway was not there. And this was a fact, these expressways were not there earlier, just that we've forgotten the time when we used to spend hours and hours traveling to these places. I would say hours and hours more than what we spend now. And the kind of breakage or the kind of wear and tear that the vehicle used to pay, the kind of fuel we used to burn, I think we've forgotten about that. And some of the people only remember the few hundred rupees which goes out of your pocket on the toll, and they complained about it. So I think that is the misconception we need to remove from people's mind, that for whatever you are paying, you're saving much more than that. Notwithstanding the employment which you spoke out, this is the employment, this is provided. 53 to 55 crores per kilometer is the cost when you calculate of the recent initiative about 50,000 crores, 930 kilometers plus of the expressways or highways or roads. I think the average cost comes to about 50 to 55 crores. But I think the contribution it makes to generating employment, the contribution it makes to uplifting people's living standards is unmatched. And this in turn leads to consumption. This in turn leads to demand, and which again contributes to growth of the country. So I think the demand which we keep talking about, we spoke about in the budget, we spoke about in the economic survey. This is the best way to create demand. You give employment, you create infrastructure, you have industry coming around, people start working, their families start making money, their children start going to school, and overall consumption rises. So I think this is one good economic cycle which kickstarts because of these roads and highways. So for somebody, it may just be a road. Me as an economist, I look at it as an independent economy and an economic boost overall, Vineet.
Sumit Peer, good points, Dr. Kohli. I couldn't agree with you more. Sumit Peer, well, infrastructure is important, right? You need roads for businesses to thrive. You need roads, for people to, in fact, have that connectivity ease and go about, contributing to the economy. It's not that roads haven't existed in the past, but it's the last mile connectivity that really matters. And we live in the age of Flipkart and Amazon, where everything is by demand. And what perhaps is missing at this stage or at this point in time is the last avenue to get to the remotest part of the country, as is possible in a country like the United States or some of the developed countries like Singapore. Of course, we can't compare them in terms of absolute scale and administration. But if you look at China, Sumit Peer, and if you look at India at this point in time, this is what perhaps also separates, this huge void, this huge gulf between our GDPs as well.
Vineet, thank you very much for having me on your show. Well, there are a lot of perspectives to it, and it's a very smart question which you've asked. The first thing is, let me put this on record. when the first plane which flew was made by those Wright brothers, which is in a Smithsonian Museum in USA, Lagdi ka dabba hai. It flew for 100 meters and it conked off. Now we are talking of today Rafales and we are talking of Su-57s. It all started from there, right? So when you are revamping the system, you're not going to get the first system in the first place. Now, how do I mathematically quantify it? Look, there are 6.5 million kilometers of road in United States of America. That's highest in the world. As per some records, as per some estimates, we have taken that over, or at least by worst case estimates, we are number 2 today in the road infrastructure in the world after United States of America. In my opinion, we have taken them over, but there can be still a conflict here and there. But we are much ahead of the China. And majority of these roads, 33 to 40% of these roads have been built in last 10 years. So you have to give this credit to the Modi government. So when you build roads and all, that creates employment, it creates things. We are talking from a concept of Gali, Kocha and Sadak. We are talking of express highways. It's a big metamorphosis. You're not going scales. You don't have organized development here. Land acquisition is a challenge. Then getting people dislocated is a challenge. And even people who get dislocated, after 30 years, they will come back and again aap pe mukadma karenge. The compensation paid to us was very less. Then they will go to Supreme Court and get a stay on your road. So it's not easy to do work here, but still what we have achieved and what we are going to achieve. Another point here, if you look at this outlay, 8 roads, most of them are not in BJP ruled states. So it's not a discrimination, hardly BJP ruled states where we are running the roads. No, it's in West Bengal, it's in Jharkhand. There are a lot of states where there is no BJP rule. The roads are built with the vision of connecting and boosting the existing infrastructure. Now the question you will ask me why it is done. Bhai, kya logic hai? Logic is you have to see this with the perspective of Operation Gati Shakti. Now people will know and appreciate what is Gati Shakti. Today, if you look at the logistic cost of India, we are doing more than 10%. At times we hit 14%, but 11, 12 may be average. But if you look at a country like Germany, they are doing around 4.5 to 5.5%. Average is 5%. Now imagine when this Operation Gati Shakti and this project Gati Shakti, where you are building roads, corridors, seaports and all, when you bring it, you are able to bring down your logistic cost as a country between 5 to 8%. Imagine the quantum leap, the quantum boost it will give to your GDP, because you will become competitive in the world markets at a phenomenal rate. You have a phenomenal advantage of 8%. And honestly, the difference between you and China at times is less than 10%. So imagine if you are able to get this 8% done and you are able to build this up. Now, how to build it up while it's like renovating a house while you are living in the house. So what the best way is you renovate room by room. That is exactly what is happening. You cannot now go and bring down the whole country and start running a developed country. Wo to nahi hoga. So even if this case, a lot of the highways are built over where you don't need to acquire the land, where you are existing infrastructure, where you are building the flyovers. So we have to keep the economy running. We have to keep on the GDP growing. We don't want to get into land acquisition. We don't want to take the land acquisition, yet we want to build the expressways at the highest pace, and also we want to connect the existing infrastructure where they can be leveraged much faster. So if we look at the objectives, there are a lot of hidden objectives which are achieved by this at the minimalistic cost. And the record says, and the president says, we are capable of building 1 kilometer of road in 1 hour, which is again a record. So if we are number 2 after the United States of America, though people might say कि भाई हमारे पास कुछ नहीं है, well, they are entitled to their opinion. Our world says like that. But again, the numbers don't tell you that. We are much ahead of China in the road infrastructure. Yes, there are bottlenecks. Yes, there are issues that there are state government will not cooperate, but get the basics right. Once you get the basics right, then all these things can be issued. There is every and each system which has to be upgraded. If we talk of a Su-57 today, after 3 years, we'll talk of a Su-65 possibly. I don't know which is the variant that is coming. So evolution is a present continuous thing, but putting $8 or $9 billion on this infrastructure push across the country, irrespective of the BJP ruled or non-BJP ruled states, talks of the resolve of the Prime Minister, talks of why Gati Shakti is important, why our infrastructure has revamped under Prime Minister Modi to a substantial level. Because what I've told you, Vinny, they are hardcore numbers. I'm not casting aspersions, they're hardcore numbers. Yeah, we have problems. We will have issues. We'll have a lot of baggage which we inherit, but we will work around it. We have worked around it. Now, imagine, Vinny, 4 years pehle, from your house to Meerut, 4.5, 5 hours. Today, 1.5 hours. 1 hour on the expressway, आधा घंटा traffic jam idhar, आधा घंटा traffic jam udhar. But from 5 hours, if you are doing 1.5 or maybe 1.45, haven't 3 hours. This is how the things will work. Yeah, we cannot have a complete superb infrastructure from your house to Meerut should be ideally 1 hour 15 minutes. No, it's 1 hour 40 minutes. Still, we live with that package, but it is much better than 5 hours. And if you had the kind of rains we had and the cowards we had, this road used to completely close down. You could not go to Meerut. So with these things, the things have improved, the things have come up. If we are number 2, Vineet, after United States of America, mathematically, bhai kuch to kaam kiya hai na. Maybe we are not the perfect one, but in 10 years, there's a lot of work which we have done. There's a lot of things which we have achieved, and the Prime Minister Modi's vision is constant this infrastructure development. Look, the 4.5 lakh crore mandates of job which will be created. The opposition may say it is pakoda-nomics, road-nomics, but the people who live by it, जिनकी दाल रोटी यहाँ से चलती है ना, उसे पूछिए. No, they will not acknowledge that it creates infrastructure. It creates infrastructure. It develops the surrounding areas. It adds to the GDP. It is adding to your Gati Shakti. You are leveraging your existing infrastructure in the shortest possible time and spent to the best way possible. So there's a lot of innovation. And in our country, compare the kilometer of building and road, compare it with America and Europe. It is peanuts how we are building 1 kilometer of road. You have to also look at that. And land in our country is not cheap. And the lafdas after land acquisition are not cheap. You have to go for courts maybe for next 20, 30 years and keep on fighting it over. You might have to give compensation 3 times. With all those things happening, Vineet, it's a great initiative. The Prime Minister is doing a fantastic work. Nitin Gadkari ji is doing a fantastic work. We cannot have a perfect system, but we are almost reaching there. Look at 10 years to do this is not less of a magic. I'll conclude there.
Good points there. In fact, let me also bring in Ms. Abhijit Sinha into this conversation. Mr. Sinha, your response to what you have heard from the panelist. Obviously, any move related to upping the standard of our infrastructure has to be appreciated. But, the challenges in adherence also have to be followed.
Good evening, Vineet, and good evening, our fellow panelists. Also, welcome to NewsX viewers on a very interesting debate. Just to recall and take it forward, before election, couple of times when I came for debate, I told in a large infrastructure development plan when they were getting announced, that there are more shocks to come in. Is very categorically and very clearly the vision of current government is not only a vision of 10, 15, 20 years. The tenures were divided into 3 major segments. First tenure is to do reform, second is to do perform, and third, Modi 3.0, which is now starting, is transformation. What kind of transformation we are expecting in this tenure has been started in the beginning of the election campaign. Couple of shocks, couple of very unusual patterns of announcement and choosing which state we should be going has already been summarized by Sumit, and Dr. Kohli and Vivek has very well put in together that what is that we are going to focus now. We have done the reform, we have done the performance, and now this is the 3.0 is for the transformation. This transformation is not about only creating infrastructure. This transformation, and I'll take the debate forward from here so that next time when we meet, you will be able to see what we are going to speak today is now going into the action in coming years. The transformation is not only about moving. It's not only about ease of doing business. It's about ease of moving people, goods on the roads of Indian highway so that we can target 2 major components of our economic growth. One, the target is very clear that we spend somewhere around 17% to 14% on logistics today. If we do not reduce it to 7% to 9%, no matter how much money we earn from different sectors like food, processing, leather, textile, we will end up paying to the logistics sector. And the second foremost target, which is important for the nation right now, and PM Modi is not working on a 15-year plan, he's working on a 2047 plan. So on this, the second foremost target, which is important for the nation to target, is the lowest hanging fruit of decarbonization. We will have to cut down our fossil fuel import bill, and the only way to do it is the decarbonization and the cleaning of surface transport. So the surface transport requires a certain amount of networking. It also requires a Gati Shakti plan at the scale of a plan like Gati Shakti, and it also requires a uniform acquisition of road and infrastructure across the country. It is not a BJP ruled and other BJP ruled. I'm here to give you 2 more inputs that Bharatmala and Sagarmala is also going to be the first electric highway. The pilot has been completed. It is in the parliament for the review, and currently the review which has came up is giving a clear indication that in coming some days, coming sessions, there would be possibility that 5,500 kilometer would be India's created electric highways. And not going beyond it, the two trials which India has done on Delhi, Jaipur and Delhi, Agra, it is now entering into a state which is not owned by BJP, just to onboard hydrogen trucks and freights. So what all together is bringing here is to create that master plan where we are not dependent and not so much interdependent on the crude oil price for our mobility. And second, most important thing which we may have completely overlooked into the infrastructure discussion is you can recall and go back after the Pran Pratishtha of Ayodhya, which is the project that PM has gone and inaugurated immediately after 8 or 10 days of his days. It's PM Suryaghar Yojana. That's the solar project. So the overall expenditure on power, on energy, road transport and infrastructure is going towards two major targets to club: 17% to 9% reduction in logistic cost, 30% reduction in our oil import bill, and these all to contribute to a PM Master Gati Shakti plan to create an environment of business and export inside. Today, we are the second largest road network globally. But at the same time, we are also second largest bus manufacturer globally and the third largest truck manufacturer globally. And you will be maybe shocked, maybe not, that the loading plan of a hydrogen truck and electric truck is the third trial, which in equivalent to Germany's third trial of e-highway truck, the pantograph line in India is not going to be conducted in a BJP ruled state. It is going to be conducted in Tamil Nadu between Chennai to Trichy. So next new things which are coming on a part of design, and this design has to total up a minimum expenditure of around 240,000 expenditure per person in his lifetime, which has taken birth after 2020. Where does this total up? If one person after 2020 is taking birth and spending $240,000 US in his lifetime, your population on 2047, 31st August is going to be 168 crore people. Just multiply these two numbers, you will get the economy of India on that day. That is $38 trillion.
You've come up with some great figures and of course great pointers. Unfortunately, we've run out of time as well, but we were able to assimilate some stellar points that make this announcement one of progress and one of vision and mission India. Thank you so much everyone for being a part of this chat.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.